Hello, Great River School community who's here for our Tuesday night family forum. It is May 18th, and we are still reporting to you almost every Tuesday with updates to the community on how we're operating school during this pandemic and how we can best respond to and answer questions for you. A lot of updates in the last couple weeks. Oh, Holly's here. Holly, I didn't see you in the participant list. I'm going to let you in. Here we go. Thank you, Holly. Change role to panelist. I need your help, Holly, with the technical management of this operation. Here we go. Holly Bell, reporting live from the beach where the hurricane is going to land. Holly, can you see anything?
Outside?
Just
It's getting cloudy.
It's getting cloudy. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Oh, good. I'm reporting to you live from the first place I've really encountered a mosquito population here in central Minnesota at a rest stop. The mosquitoes are enjoying me, and I suppose I'm delighted they're alive. Yeah, I'm delighted they're alive because it's the foundation of the ecosystem, and it's really important. Thanks for being here, Holly. I was just saying. Yeah, I was just saying welcome to everyone, and we are going to be answering just a couple questions tonight. People have sent in about masks and mask protocols, and a lot of questions in the past couple of weeks. When the question was asked, would have a different answer than it has right now, because the country and the state and schools in the state of Minnesota have really changed a lot of the best practice guidance in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So with that as a preface, Holly, are there questions you have in mind that you've heard this week that you think we'll be answering? Oh, I see. And Holly, you're moving around your house. There you go. Can you hear me, Holly? Are you there? Okay. Well, I can't hear Holly. In any case, we're gonna carry on. Holly, please unmute yourself and come back when you're prepared. I miss you. In any case, folks, what we know about COVID cases in the state of Minnesota.
I thought I was being unstable.
Oh, great. Well, great. Welcome back then, Holly. In any case, what we know about COVID cases the past week in Minnesota is that in our seven county metro area, in general, they're declining. A couple counties where they're holding steady, but over the past couple weeks, they have declined steadily, which is good news for us. As a school community, my encouragement to test as families is something that I'll just repeat often. If you're a family who is, especially if you're coming to school in person, if your students coming to school in person, if you're participating in any activities, basically, if you're a family that's doing anything currently other than still full lockdown quarantine, it's a really good idea to take advantage of the state program we have for testing. The state of Minnesota provides free tests to Minnesota residents still, and getting tested often, especially for those people who are currently unvaccinated, for people ages who can't be vaccinated, a routine of regular testing really helps prevent outbreaks at places like schools or at any of the places you might see people are gathering activities. And so through our encouragement to have families get tested, we have had several families catch asymptomatic infections before their student came in person to school, which is great. We've had several families report that the symptoms of illness that they might have had, they got tested several times and made sure it wasn't COVID before recovering and then coming back to an activity or coming in person. And even families who aren't coming in person are making it part of their routine. I do expect, depending on how variants and the virus behaves over the summer, it will be beneficial for you to be familiar with testing sites and protocols, familiar with where you prefer to get a test, whether that's a local pharmacy or one of the tests sent to your home. So all of that testing information is on our website, greatriverschool.org / I suppose this way for you, greatriverschool.org / return. And right at the top there, under our 2 speedometers, are links right there on how to order tests. And so I really just want to emphasize, cajole, implore, invite you to consider how to make regular testing a part of your routine. Holly, let's see, do I see something in the chat? Okay, cool. And then secondly, I'll just report that over the past 10 days, we have had 2 classrooms in the elementary level go through our quarantine protocol, which means that someone in the classroom tested positive for COVID-19. And we continue to see a pattern in which we catch that early because of testing, because of responsible behavior by our community, by our families. And when we catch that, we go through that protocol immediately of letting everyone know in that classroom that we're going to go through a quarantine. We also then continue to see a successful pattern of mitigation working at school. We have yet to see a classroom case turn into an outbreak in that classroom, which I think is good news. And we definitely have not seen any indication that any cases are even spreading within classrooms, much less between our cohorts. So that's good news. And then we are following best practice recommendations. And over the last week, families may be aware, if you've been reading the news, that a lot has changed in terms of mask mandates and or best practices. Specifically, the state of Minnesota and the Department of Health and the Department of Education declared just last week, so I believe it was just last week, that outdoors, students need not wear masks anymore at recess. We were one of the few schools still enforcing a mask mandate at recess in the Twin Cities area, to my understanding, and statewide definitely. Masks are still an option for us at recess, but it's an option to take your mask off at recess too, both for elementary students who are on site and for our 7th and 8th grade students on site and our SRC high school students. I still see, I'd say, between a third and more than half, depending on the time, students wearing masks outside. And when the students are sitting and studying together outside, I still see students wearing masks. We're using that just as a way to make sure that we keep that mask protocol on, and we're using it also in the classroom. And so as we continue to follow our protocols for quarantining, as we continue to let families know right away if and when there's a positive case, I am really grateful to the folks who are in the classrooms, really reinforcing those norms of wearing masks, staying socially distanced as much as possible, but really being responsible with how we're being around each other. And I think that's helping. And so also really exciting news just this past Monday, which is yesterday, but seems also like it could have been so much longer ago to me. Our 7th and 8th grade students, many of them, about 7 out of 10 of our 7th and 8th grade population, returned in person for learning for Community Action Month. So those students have been on site now for 2 days, and we still have a good number, about 3 out of 10 of our 7th and 8th grade students doing virtual only Community Action Month learning and planning. And so as that carries us through these next few weeks, Holly, it's hard for me to even recall. Let's see, I think, I might have lost Holly. It's hard for me to even recall the feeling of having only 3 weeks of school left. But as I look at the calendar here, we have this week, next week, the following week, and then we're really just looking at our last final week of school. And so with four complete weeks left, 3 full weeks of learning, and then our final week of wrapping things up, I'm really thankful to the folks who have been steadfast and courageous in carrying out all of the planning it took to bring some students back in person, and also to the 9th through 12th grade guides and students for persevering and really working through their courses and content. We have had a more engaged 9th through 12th grade virtual learning cohort than most other schools that I'm aware of, and definitely more than the average school being reported on. If you are live tonight, I see there a lot of families have just tuned in the last few minutes. Please ask a question if you got it in the Q&A. I'm just going to go through a few of the questions that have been asked recently of us, and a couple of them have to do with mask mandates. One has to do with activities, and then one has to do with end of year gatherings and processes. So if you have a question and you're here live tonight, please feel free to put that question in the Q&A, and I'll make sure to answer it. And so here we go. Pulling up the first question, Holly, if Holly joins us, she may be able to help me with some screen sharing, but pulling up the first question here, specifically, the question is about mask mandates and why. Why did we change our protocol for wearing masks outdoors at the elementary level and recess level? And specifically, we're following Department of Health and Department of Education guidelines that were announced last week regarding, it might have even been just before last week, regarding the really exceptionally low transmissibility of COVID-19 outdoors. And so what that means is that when we're outside at recess, it's a time where we know that there's very, very extremely rare, very low risk of passing COVID-19 from one person to another when outdoors. And even more importantly, we know that the kinds of outdoor settings that we are generally in as students and educators at recess are exposed to the outdoors, are quite breezy, are not generally enclosures. And so that allows us to stay confident that we should be confident that it's rare to be experiencing contagion or transmissibility of the COVID-19 virus outdoors. And so because of that information, we consulted not only with Department of Health and Education, but with our school nurse as our local expert. And being able to remove masks outdoors also gives students, I think, a little bit of respite from the endurance of wearing the mask all day, which I know has become a norm for many students, but is still a relief to be able to run around and play outdoors, feel secure in the low risk of transmissibility, and then safely put that mask or another mask, clean mask, back on. In any case, those students who are outdoors with masks generally are independently managing their masks. Either, and I'll demonstrate here with some of the skills we've been practicing at school. I just want to put my mask on correctly. Here we go, wonderful. And so generally, if students are handling their mask and storing it, they're being careful, excuse me, to remove that mask without touching the front of it, keeping debris and dirt off, folding that mask up. And for me, I would store it away in a pocket that I have. And I know some students who don't have pockets have stored it away in a plastic baggie and sealed it up and then put that in a safe location, generally on them. So generally students are doing that independently and managing their masks. And then before we go back indoors, students are lining up and putting those masks back on. And then a second question here, why are we making these changes with just a few weeks left? I think this is from a family who is concerned generally about the safety standards and if we're lowering them or not. Here the question is, with only a few weeks left, why change mask mandates, especially when you have positive cases in classrooms? And so I'll answer that directly and say that we are following the protocols for how to keep ourselves secure and as safe as possible when we're in classrooms. And we expect, as we go to school through this pandemic, I would even suspect in the fall, we might have quarantine protocols and positive cases because we understand that, as we've talked about, I think most recently at the end of March on this forum, harm reduction is the goal. And so we know that there won't be zero risk, but we'll do everything we can to reduce risk. In the case of why remove masks outdoors, that's the only place we're removing masks currently. And I wanted to make that clear. We're still social distancing indoors. We're still wearing masks at all times indoors. We're still staying within classroom cohorts indoors. Why don't we continue to do all of that outdoors? What we've learned and have corroborated by our school nurse, by the experts who work in public health in schools, by the Department of Education and Department of Health, and echoed by the CDC, is that there's such a low risk of transmission outdoors that it is a secure decision to adjust policies to allow students to be maskless outdoors. And as long as they're not in an enclosed space, as long as they're not directly right face to face with each other, really trying to be transmissible, there's almost no chance of transmitting a virus outdoors. And so because of that, and also because of the social and emotional benefits of allowing several classrooms to be playing outdoors together, we still do have not the whole elementary at one time, but just a few classrooms at a time out together at recess, playing maskless, and then going back into cohorts, putting masks on to go indoors together. We have learned and have corroborated that there's very little, oh, excuse me, I'm having a mosquito moment here, that there's very little opportunity for any more transmission with that protocol. So indoors, same protocols. Outdoors, we're following the best practices as updated by health experts. And then the last question here about health protocols will be, now with the new health protocols announced by the state of Minnesota, we'll be changing our guidelines for events such as prom, graduation, and end of year ceremony, things like that. And another question, will there be an end of year picnic as organized by our parent engagement group and others? And so I'll say this, I don't believe that there'll be an end of year picnic this year, but I do believe that something like that will likely happen, likely happen at the end of the summer. Secondly, in terms of prom, I know that a student committee has planned prom, and we're following all of the mandates for the Stay Safe Minnesota plan. So I know you can look that up yourself, also online, Stay Safe MN, I think, .gov. And if you go to Stay Safe Minnesota, you can look at the guidelines for outdoor events and social gatherings. So we are using all of the current guidelines for outdoor events and venues for prom, for instance, with the addition of, we're requiring mask wearing at prom out of, I think, a phrase that has become very popular the past year, out of an abundance of caution. And also, I think seniors who are planning that have decided that that's a protocol so that everyone feels as secure as possible. As there are still some students and families in our community who are either immune vulnerable and wearing masks all the time to make sure that they have every layer of security about that. And so prom is the 28th of this month, just about a week and a half away. And it's for 11th and 12th year students, plus a guest each if they wish to bring one. It's generally almost completely outdoors at the Phelan Pavilion. And the safety protocols for there will also echo again in the communication to everyone who's attending. In terms of the end of year ceremony or graduation, we're planning on holding an end of year ceremony. We're working on the final details for that, so I won't announce yet exactly what it'll be, but it'll look very much like past years, though we'll have fewer students on site, probably elementary students. Generally, it'll be limited to elementary students outdoors and participating, and we will likely then limit the way and the manner in which parents come and watch and participate. We look forward to, of course, having an end of year ceremony return to its full splendor in the future, but it'll be somewhat amended this year. And in terms of graduation, senior students, 12th year students, plus their households may come with up to 7 other people, and we're going to hold that outdoors on the south side of the school. We're limiting it, though, as an invitation to the faculty and to the seniors and their households so that we can fit everybody in that space on the south side of school. And while many restrictions have been loosened and or done away with in terms of outdoor gatherings and group sizes, we will not only be following the Stay Safe Minnesota guidelines, but we will be spacing out the places for families to gather for some social distancing, really again out of caution, and making sure too that people feel comfortable enough to come, even if they might be immune compromised. So there will be the option, though, I believe at graduation, to be maskless outdoors in your space and distanced from other family groups. And so those are probably more details than you wanted, as you asked in one email just about end of year events. And then I'm looking at the Q&A and I'm seeing there might be one. Let's see. Can a junior invite a sophomore to prom? They absolutely can invite a sophomore to prom. I suppose the question here is, if you're a sophomore or a freshman, you want to go to prom, should you start just asking all the juniors and seniors? That's totally up to you. And one of the reasons the juniors and seniors who are planning prom opted to limit the initial invitations to 11th and 12th year students really is because of group size and numbers, wanted to make sure that they could handle that planning of that event. So yes, they can. And prom, as it has been historically, is a student planned event. I will mention, so that you know, part of the school history is that prom, at least up through the themes of 2019, usually had some kind of disaster theme. So there was Promtanic, there was Promageddon, there was Pompeii, like Pompeii, the volcano. There was a variety of proms that were themed around historical disaster in a comical way. And we never had a promdemic, and seniors have decided not to theme this year's prom with any kind of disaster, but instead just make it prom fun. And so maybe in the future, when a pandemic has subsided, seniors may go back to, and juniors may go back to theming proms around historical disasters. But at least for now, prom will just be prom this year. Secondly, there's a question here, everybody. Thank you. There's a question here about what if my grandma is in a wheelchair, or if anyone in my family might have other abilities and need accommodations for, say, wheelchairs or mobility. That is something that we're prepared. Oh, excuse the honking behind me. That's something we're prepared to handle. And specifically, we'll be holding graduation on the south side of the school, where recess is commonly held. We will do some decorating that day. We will spruce it up a bit. But anyone who needs an accommodation, let's say on wheels or for mobility, will be able to use the gradual ramp off our sidewalk and Energy Park Lane in order to get to a flat and wheelable space in order to be able to see the stage for graduation. That will be no problem at all. Every year, also, generally, there is at least one senior. So seniors, if you're watching, or if you're a family of a senior who's watching, and you have not yet realized this, at least one senior between about now and graduation has tended to sprain an ankle, strain a leg, for some reason be on crutches. And so I'll just encourage seniors between now and graduation. You could be one of the first classes, if indeed you accomplish this, to not have someone on crutches, but we're even prepared to accommodate the senior either on wheels or in walking in some other way than bipedal at graduation. Okay, well, those are the official questions. We've also answered a couple Q&As tonight. Again, thank you everyone for coming. If you do have a question, you can pop it in the chat every now and then. Oh, Holly, I see you're back. Here, let me promote Holly. I'm sure everyone would love to see Holly say goodbye. Here we go, promoting you to panelist. Come on in, Holly Bell. And I suppose one announcement I'll make here is just a heads up to everyone that the school board does meet every fourth Tuesday of the month. And so this month, that's next Tuesday, the 25th. A lot gets done at school board meetings, but even more importantly, you might not realize all of the decisions that really set the school's direction are made by the school board. And I want to congratulate our newest school board members, Rebecca Berry, who applied for the school board as a parent, was elected. And we also had, I believe, 5 other parents apply and were running for the school board. And I just want to say, everyone who applied would be a great addition to our school board. And I really look forward to anyone who applied to be on the board to really serve on committees and get involved and still really contribute to enlivening the direction of the school and spinning that committee work. And so that school board meeting, as all of them are, is public next Tuesday. And we'll generally be talking about transitions, as our new head of school, David Nunez, will be starting in just 6 weeks or so, 6 or 7 weeks. I've been speaking with David regularly. I'll update the board on the transition planning that is successfully happening. The board will be looking at the school budget and being ready to approve that in June, and looking forward to next year. We also had great news today, Holly, in case any finance wonks out there have been following the school board notes. We've been waiting to hear back from the state of Minnesota about our ADSIS grant, the Alternative Delivery of Specialized Instructional Services, which at our school, really, I know, ADSIS, that grant is a matching grant from the state of Minnesota in things like academic intervention and social work. And we really use that to, I think, engage a lot of students with really helpful services. Otherwise, we wouldn't have as much capacity as we do. We just heard today that the entire grant we wrote has been approved, which is wonderful. It's never guaranteed, and every 2 years we have to reapply. And so it's really great news for us and for our students and for everyone, working in that student services department. So yay, yay,
Yeah,
yay.
that's excellent news.
I know, it's great news. And Holly, I think you wanted to say one more thing, reminding seniors about something.
Yes. If there are any seniors watching or listening, or senior families watching or listening, you know already, I'm making a memory book of photographs for each graduate. And while I have a lot of really fun pictures, really nice pictures, I do want at least one of every student. Because, when you look back at it 5 years from now, you say, oh, who was that person's name? What did they look like? Yeah, I need one of everybody, please.
Great. Wonderful. Okay. So if you know a senior, if you are a senior, if you're a family of a senior who's listening in, we would like more pictures. And Holly and I and our communications coordinator, Sophie, who's filling in right now for Charlie, we will work together. Holly, if you get a little list together for me and Sophie, we can help you contact each of those families too and really make sure we get one of everybody.
I don't have.
And I don't want to embarrass anyone, but possibly you're maybe even looking for one like child picture of every senior.
Yes, that's what I've been saying to people.
Yeah, great.
Great picture, or I have one of this boy. He's so cute. It's a tiny one. Cute as a big one. Yeah.
Cool. Wonderful.
And you can send them to my school email, hbell.
Yep, hbell. School.org. Okay. Well, great. Holly, thanks for joining me and persevering through the connectivity.
Sam, thank you for having birds in the background and, mosquitoes.
Living the rest stop life. This is just the third forum I've done from a rest stop, but it's coming. This month might be a few of them because I'm coming down Mondays and or Fridays and going up Tuesdays often. One last question: is it anticipated bus routes will be similar next year? The bus route will return to similar to last year. That is a great question, and I'll answer that question the same way I do actually every May, which is in particular for the students who are currently counting on the bus to get to school. Generally, yes, we try to keep the buses as consistent year to year as possible. And the one caveat is that every year we take in new students, and sometimes students age out of the busing program at the elementary level. And so it is possible that we adjust those buses. But in these closing weeks of the year, a couple of things will happen. And so actually, I'm glad this question came up. A couple of things will happen. One of them will be an end of year survey that both families and students and staff receive and fill out. And then when filling that out, there won't be a specific question about busing, but you'll reflect on the year and what's going well and where you think we might improve. The next thing though is that anyone who's on the bus will get some communication again about what's going well and what could improve. And specifically that will go to also incoming first graders, and we will have to assess. And so every year we may be assessing the bus routes and adjusting them. Generally, the current satellite stops, say, that are farthest from the school will likely stay the same. And what could change though are people who might be, especially in St. Paul, and really need busing. So that's the shortest answer is every year we got to see who needs it, and it changes a little bit year to year. So we again will work with you to make sure stuff works as much as possible. Yeah. So, okay, Holly, and seniors, send in pictures. We want to see them.
Thank you.
Yay. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to call it a little early this evening, maybe because of the mosquitoes, but also I don't see any more questions. So Holly, have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the warmth. It's going to get a little cooler and a little more rainy. Yeah, a little wetter. Yeah.
It's great to see you, Sam. Thanks everyone.
You too, Holly. Thanks everyone. Bye.
See you next week.